Bonjour, je suis Fatih Nzi Hassan, je suis la responsable du programme Compétences et Emploi des Jeunes à l'agence du NEPAD.
Good day, my name is Simon Kisira. I am the head of the Strategic Planning, Knowledge Management and Monitoring and Evaluation Division at the NEPAD Agency.
As we are building towards Agenda 2063 and the Africa we want, we cannot overlook the issue of unemployment, underemployment, and globally lack of economic prospects for the youth. Today, the youth in Africa between 15 and 24 years old amounts to 200 million people. NEPAD conducted a study in 2015, and we found out that by 2030, 440 million youth will be on the job market. These are youth that are already born. These are not projections. So we absolutely need to address this. On the other hand, we know that we are also sitting on a gold mine because the youth is the one that is going to provide the necessary manpower for us to develop the continent. African Development Agency, well, NEPAD, has created this Skills and Employment for Youth program, where we're trying to look at how we can best support all the stakeholders in place. And we do this underpinned by two aspirations of the Agenda 2063. The first one is an Africa based on inclusive growth and sustainable development. And then the other one is an Africa whose development is people-driven and relying specifically on youth and women. One of the reasons why a focus on agricultural, technical, vocational education and training is important is that Africa should be able to feed herself. It is unacceptable that this continent has 60% of arable land and still is the only continent that is net importer of food. A study from the World Bank a few years back has shown that given the right conditions are in place, the conducive environment is in place, Africa has the potential to triple the agricultural production from 313 billion US dollars per year to 1,000 billion US dollars per year by 2030. So one of the elements that will help this happen is for us to create the conditions for the necessary workforce to turn to the agriculture. And for this to happen, we need to make sure that prospects in the agriculture lead to decent economic opportunities and jobs. And then this leads us to the improvement and the increase of the productivity. One of the drivers of the increase of the productivity levels is for the youth and the women and the farmers to gain the necessary skills that will allow them to reach this productivity level. And this is why NEPAD, as a contribution, has created the ATVET program within the framework of CAADP, with the hope that this being implemented in 6+6 countries in Africa now will lead into innovative approaches in skills development and ultimately create increased productivity levels and create more jobs for the African women and youth, both formal and informal.
As you may know, the NEPAD Agency is the development arm of the African Union, and it has 5 broad mandate areas. But among the 5 is the responsibility for conducting research and undertaking knowledge management across the country. What does this mean across the continent? It means that we are tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that the vast amount of knowledge that has been generated is harnessed in a structured way, is packaged, and ultimately is put at the disposal of policymakers, of technical people on the front line, as well as communities in Africa. So it's ultimately ensuring that the wealth of information that has been generated through the implementation of various programs is collected, and in the process there is the whole notion around co-creation of knowledge, co-creation and generation of knowledge. And this could be tacit knowledge, it could be explicit knowledge, but all being brought together. This could be even African knowledge, the folklore, the songs, the riddles, the tales that we have. How does that input into the decision-making and implementation processes in the country? So it's collecting that knowledge, it's ultimately structuring it, packaging it, and talking to issues of intellectual rights, intellectual property rights, that what has been generated by Africa is harnessed and indeed safeguarded therein. And then the aspect of storing that knowledge. We need to store the knowledge in a place that will enable ease of access to the different stakeholders that we have in the country. But equally then importantly is the transfer of that knowledge, transferring it between from the technical people to other people, be it in the academia or among the communities, and also then informing how policies are constructed. Ultimately, when all is said and done, we are hoping that the knowledge that we are managing will then be interfaced and it will inform the national development plans and priorities. It should be mapped into the budgeting processes of the countries. So that's how we view it. It's about collecting knowledge, it's about connecting people, connecting institutions anchored on that knowledge, and this should all be underpinned by a strong coordination mechanism.
So we hope that this training is going to give you opportunities to exchange knowledge, to harness the knowledge, to codify this knowledge so that it can be used and translated in the local realities of the countries that have been identified for the expansion of the ATVET program, but also in other countries in the future. So we have high hopes, and we know that we have the right participants for this, and we have the right energy, and we really hope you well during this workshop.
So just like Fatih mentioned, I think it's a wonderful opportunity that Africa has brought together a set of resource persons who are going to share experiences, and in the process they are co-creating knowledge, which knowledge we hope will then be deployed to the agricultural training centers, and hopefully to many other instruments, including the policy instruments in their respective countries. What is also exciting for us is that these participants are from different countries. Increasingly, we are realizing that the national challenges, national level challenges, are not optimally addressed at national level. They would need a regional dimension, and hence the connections between countries, between regions would be important. So it's our expectation that this workshop will start a journey where the Africans in the domain of ATVET, Agriculture Vocational Education Training, will then start writing a narrative from their own experiences, and hopefully then build a critical mass that will engineer the change that is articulated in Agenda 2063. So we wish you well in this workshop.